Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's French Open Women's Finals catch up,
Gauff wins her maiden Roland Garros title,
Sabalenka comes unstuck in another Grand Slam final this season.
and we reflect on our favourite moments from the women's draw.
Chris, today is the 7th of June, and we are here to catch up on the women's final of the French Open at Tennis Weekly HQ, brought to you by Property Hub Invest. Coco Gauff is our champion. She is our Roland Garros champion. Came through a three-set thriller against Aryna Sabalenka. And Chris, we are here straight off the back to discuss the final, as well as give our kind of reflection on the women's tournament. We've got some exciting, I'm just going to call them now, we've got some Tennis Weekly awards to give out for the event. But we're going to do a bit of an analysis of the women's final. Our Roland Garros coverage is brought to you by Property Hub Invest.
If you're looking to build a successful property portfolio without the stress of going it alone, Property Hub Invest could be exactly what you need.
With over 13 years of experience and trusted by the Sunday Times as weekly property columnists, the team behind Property Hub Invest have helped thousands of investors build hands-off, high-performing portfolios.
They source buy-to-let opportunities you won't find anywhere else, complete with exclusive investor discounts, then guide you through every step so you can invest with confidence and grow your wealth the smart way.
So if you're serious about property, head to propertyhub.net/start to take your first step.
That's propertyhub.net/start.
The link is in the description.
What are your immediate reactions to Coco Gauff winning her first ever Roland Garros title and her second overall Grand Slam singles title?
I mean, I'm thrilled for her. I really do love Coco Gauff. I think she's such a great person and a great player and a really great role model, and someone who has had that challenging period of when you start young, there's a lot of hype around you, and she's living up to the hype. And after that first slam in 2023, you wonder, is there going to be another one? When will it come? And she's proven that she can do it again, do it on a different surface. And I think the way that she remains so composed for someone of her age, I think that's what won her the match. So I think it's a testament to her character as well as her tennis skills.
I just have to keep reminding myself that she's only 21 years old and the incredible tennis that she's been able to display. And it's that sort of old adage of like kind of a wise head on like a young person's shoulders. It's like we actually forget, she's a very experienced competitor, but Sabalenka is just such a formidable opponent. And as I said, we're going to be getting into kind of talking about this match at length because this was a really intriguing matchup. Top two seeds coming in, the two best players really, on the, showcasing their powers on the clay swing. So it was really great to get kind of this moment. But overall, as a match, how would you describe it? Because it felt very, very topsy-turvy.
Well, I mean, topsy-turvy, I'd say it's a bit of a roller coaster. I think it was probably very high on drama, if not necessarily always on quality. I think the numbers we'll talk about in detail, but I mean, 70 unforced errors for Sabalenka. I think
we've got to start there. We've got to start there, haven't we?
I think that's probably the story of the match is ultimately that Sabalenka started very well and then she just completely lost it. She lost it mentally. The frustration boiled over and she was making some decisions on the court that make you wonder how she even got that first set, considering some of the shots she was missing, some of the shot selection. And I think that's where the drama unfolded, was Sabalenka versus herself, and then Coco Gauff doing enough at those key moments, not only to stay in there and hang in there, but also to win points and produce some great shots for the highlights reel. But I think the story was this began and ended on, unfortunately, Sabalenka's racket.
Yeah, I mean, going into the final, the most unforced errors she had dropped in the tournament was 25, and that was to Iga Swiatek. And in that third set against Swiatek, she didn't commit any unforced errors. It was zero. And the very start of the match, it felt like we were picking up where we left off. Sabalenka on that kind of hot streak. But to go from a total of 25 to 70 in the space of one match, like what what is going on there? Why is this happening? Is this Sabalenka's level dropping? Is this the opponent that Sabalenka is facing? Is it the fact that this match was with the roof open versus the match in the semi-final where the roof was closed? Was that a factor as well? Why do you think the unforced error count was so high?
I think it's the nature of how Sabalenka plays, unfortunately, big matches at the slams. She's not great at them for someone who is a world number one. I think her Grand Slam record now in finals is 3-3. And for Coco Gauff now, she's 2-1. And that's a positive result there for her. So for someone of her ability, she doesn't get it done in some of these big moments. I think I don't want to take credit away from Keys. That was a much better match from both players. But there are opportunities that she's had in the past where she hasn't taken it. That match with Coco Gauff was another one where, she really does go for shots that she shouldn't be going for when she gets stressed or when things go a bit sideways for her. And then once that starts, it's either winner or unforced error. And in this case, it was more unforced errors than it was winner. But she doesn't seem to have the tools in sort of the mental armory to bring things back. She just has to hit through it. And I think that's something her coach talked about before the match, that she then tries to really shorten the points, but that doesn't necessarily work, especially when you've got someone like Coco Gauff, who's such a great retriever. So tough matchup for her. But if it went 3, we both said we thought that Coco would get it, probably for this exact reason.
Yeah, it felt like maybe Coco Gauff needed a little bit of time to adjust to Sabalenka's game. But, come the second and third set, it felt like she was a lot more comfortable with the power that Sabalenka was bringing to the court. And I actually would have liked to see Sabalenka maybe try and play with a little bit more angle and get Coco Gauff on the run a bit more, because as you said, it felt like she was just trying to hit bigger. And as a result of that, she was overplaying because she was missing quite a few ground strokes by quite a distance. Do you think like with Sabalenka, it is very much a very, very good A game, plan A, that can, on its day, defeat 95% of the tour. But there are going to be times where she's going to come up against players like Coco Gauff, where she's going to need a plan B. And arguably, because she's maybe not had to rely on that as much, really, just because of how good her A game is. She's not really thought about it that much. But maybe this match shows that, there needs to be there needs to be a response or a different approach there, because maybe we just didn't see that, I think, in sets 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be a different approach mentally when you're in these tough moments in matches as well. I mean, the only 3-set Grand Slam final that she's won is the match that she played against Rybakina. That was the first one that she played. And I think since then, I think at the time she also had like a mental health coach, a therapist as well. And I don't think she necessarily has talked that much about that since. I think that relationship did end from a sports psychologist perspective. So I think that's where I think a lot of the plan B, it just becomes so stressful for her that she doesn't actually rely on plan B. She just doesn't think clearly, because some of those slices, Coco Gauff is not a player who you want to hit many drop shots against, because she is probably the quickest on the tour. It doesn't work. And then she's playing all these sort of like chip and charge volleys. It's almost like she just didn't want to have to play a ground stroke because she wasn't sure what would happen. And that's not how you want to be playing your matches, because that's not how she played the whole tournament.
Do you think she wasn't confident in her own game from the back of the court, and that's why we saw her maybe coming a bit more towards the net?
I think she just wants, and she's wanted it all to go to plan. And I think that's what she needs in slam finals for her to play her best tennis. She needs it all to work. And when it's not working, I think that's why she thought she's got to try and do something different. Not because she doesn't have the belief in her ground strokes, but because she's just not thinking in the way that she would like to. It's not clear. Like, some of the things that she was doing are not things she's done this whole 2 weeks. And she said it herself that, she's played so well in Paris. She's played so well. And then she still wasn't able to do it. And it wasn't because she doesn't have the level. It's because she did not play better than Coco Gauff today. And Coco Gauff played really good tennis, super smart tactically. Coco was on fire with her decision making. The high backhand, the high forehand, she was hitting, looping it into the Sabalenka backhand, and Sabalenka was not making the adjustments on the baseline, and those balls that were flying out. So I think she really did create a big problem for Sabalenka. And I think the fact that she wasn't getting those winners did mean that she started to come in more. And then the more she came in, the more I think she sort of lost the plot, to be honest.
Yeah, and the Coco Gauff double-handed backhand as well. That was just a thing of beauty, I feel, by the end
So
of the
solid.
match. Really solid, really destructive as well at the same time. And there was some incredible gets from Coco Gauff as well. I think I think there's been so much focus on, particularly some of her shots, across the last few months in terms of her serve, which, did have a few issues for her today. But that was the same for both players, lots of breaks of serve. But she's an incredible athlete. I think we've got to keep telling ourselves. And I remember that get off that Sabalenka smash.
On the backhand, yeah.
On the backhand, high backhand passing shot down the line. Again, I think it's just such a great attribute that Coco Gauff has. And certainly, I think one of the reasons that she was able to pull out the victory. I will also say, though, I think just her composure through the match. For me, that was the biggest difference. It felt like Sabalenka got too panicky the more and more this match went on. Perhaps a sign that, she felt within herself that maybe plan A wasn't working as much as she felt like or hoped it would. But Coco Gauff, on the other hand, when there were breaks or maybe luck was against her, and there was a kind of a let cord towards the end that again wasn't in her favor, she just kind of stayed very, very cool and composed on the tennis court. And I wondered if Sabalenka didn't really have that much composure. There was a lot of chat with her box, a lot of kind of looking for answers, and the reality is in those moments she's going to need to figure it out on her by herself.
She will, and we see people yelling at their box a lot, and Coco never does that. I think she has this sort of calm exterior, probably doesn't necessarily feel that calm inside. She said at times she doubted that she could do it, but you would never know that, because whether she's sort of up or whether she's down, she has that sort of Maria Sharapova-esque attitude where you just wouldn't know what the score was, because when she was down double break in that first
set, she has
set,
so much belief, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think down a double break, I think she just thought, come on, Coco, you can do this, you're going to get opportunities. And I think against a player like Sabalenka, she knew she was going to get opportunities, and that it's unlikely that Sabalenka would be able to play that level for the entire match. And I think that shows in her that she knows that she'll have these chances. But my goodness, that final game, I was going to say, Joel, she was rolling in those first. She did not want to hit a second serve, I don't think. But it
got really tight.
The slower she served to Sabalenka, the more Sabalenka missed the return. So is that a tactic for the future?
Maybe. I mean, I was nervous because once that first match point went away, and I think Sabalenka had a break point, I was like, "Oh, are we here, or are we here for maybe Sabalenka winning from a match point down?" But again, just the composure I think that Coco Gauff has, even if she maybe is rolling in a serve, she's got that belief that she can stay in the point. And
it's smart. Roll it in. If you think you're going to miss it, you don't want to hit a second serve, get the first one in. I think that's clear thinking. Ask
the question to Aryna Sabalenka, particularly in those moments, because her ground strokes were breaking down. And one other thing I would say on Gauff was at the start of that second set, I mean, the amount of effort both players put into an 80-minute first set that went very tight in that tie break. Sabalenka was down in that tie break, 4-1, I think, and was able to kind of wrestle it through. Again, just going back to that kind of belief point and that mental approach that Gauff has, it's so impressive that she's able to kind of bounce back from that. And, I think that almost kind of fueled her to say like, oh, I'm in the match here. And, I can compete with Sabalenka, because I think sometimes in those situations, you think, I might it might be easy to kind of get down on myself because I put so much energy in. I didn't win the set, and now I've got to go and do it all again. So again, I thought that was a great kind of bounce back in those very delicate moments of that second set. And it sort of, again, reminded me of the match against Madison Keys, because again, she lost a very tight tie break in that first set and was ultimately able to kind of get it done. So it just shows, I think, Coco Gauff, you just can't count her out, because whatever situation she finds herself in, she has that belief that she calls on, that she can get herself out of a sticky situation.
Well, exactly. And she actually said in her victory speech at the end, she quoted Tyler, the Creator. I won't say the expletive, listeners, but she did say, I never had a doubt inside me. And if I ever told you that I did, I'm lying. And she said that she likes to think that she's lying to herself because she said she doubted that she could do it. But clearly, that's not the case because she can do it and she did do it. So I think that's really nice that even though she is someone who clearly is super successful, that it's fine to have those doubts, but she handles them so well. I think that's not the case when it comes to Sabalenka. And I mean, I was looking at some of the stats as well, Joel, not to kind of go back over on the negative side of Sabalenka's game, but Sabalenka winning 48% of first service points. I think that is one of the worst numbers she's probably ever had. I mean, it's pretty much the same as her second serve points won, and both of those are below the second serve percentage of points won by Coco Gauff. Really, when she described this, I wasn't sure whether I liked the way she described it because she did say she played terribly. And I think it's not the classiest thing to say when you have lost a match. And she said, obviously, this one hurts a lot. And I do fully understand that. I can't understand because I've not been in a Grand Slam final. But to say that you played terribly, the numbers 70 unforced errors imply you didn't play well. But do you think that this was a case that she played so badly she lost the match, like she said? And do you think that you can give credit to Coco whilst also saying that you played terribly in your speech? It's a tricky one.
I think it's tough, particularly I think on that unforced error count, because I think a lot of people are going to look at that and think, this is all down to Aryna Sabalenka. But I think the reality is that Coco Gauff put Sabalenka in some really awkward positions. She did so well, in our previous episode, kind of speaking about extending the rallies. And, the longer she was able to do that, it almost kind of felt like the more likely an unforced error was gonna come from Sabalenka's racket. So I do think there was a little bit of kind of like, although she didn't put in a great performance, I don't think that takes away from what Coco Gauff was able to achieve, because tactically I think her and her team got it a lot more spot on. I think, Chris, what I think is interesting is that Sabalenka now has lost 2 finals in a row this season. She's the world number 1, but has lost to Madison Keys in Australia, another American, Coco Gauff, at the French Open. Does she have an issue with Grand Slam finals? Because this is a worrying trend, I guess. When you're the world number 1, you want to make hay, particularly when I guess you've got other players not performing at the peak of their powers, like Iga Swiatek. Is this a worrying trend, and how can she kind of stop this trend?
I mean, it is a worrying trend. I looked at her record at 1,000 level, where the stakes are a little bit lower, and she's 9-4 that she's won versus lost. So it does show that the bigger the stage, the more likely she is to have some of these issues. I think it is a case, like we talked about before, she wants it too much. I think she wanted it so much, she just wished that Coco would give it to her, because she's played probably the best tennis and the cleanest tennis going into the final. But that doesn't matter when you're in a final. And I think that's what I said with the Iga Swiatek match, that Iga should not be too down on herself, because if she'd have played Sabalenka in the final, I think she probably would have beaten her, purely because of the way that Sabalenka plays finals or can play finals. If it gets a bit messy, if we get to a third set, I don't think she'd have been bageling Swiatek in that final. So I think there is something she needs to look at there and look at how she deals with some of those tricky moments. And in terms of what's coming next for her, I think Australia, there was a big letdown after that disappointment where she kind of dropped off, the face of the earth when it came to her tennis, when she lost to Clara Towson, and she also lost early in the Gulf swing. So it'll be interesting to see, because there's not much time before Wimbledon to regroup and refocus, and it'll be interesting to see how she responds.
Do you think that will help Sabalenka, the fact that there is no, there is a very quick transition now from clay to grass? And what do you think her ambitions will be going into Wimbledon? I mean, looking at her record, she's made 2 semi-finals in 2021 and 2023. Again, I think that, the general discourse is going to be, can she win a maiden Wimbledon title, similar, to the build up to Roland Garros, and arguably a surface that she is more equipped, or her game is more suited to.
She was volleying like we're at Wimbledon today, wasn't she?
I know. Well, it was interesting because, both players came to the net, and it showed. Sabalenka and Gauff play a lot of doubles, and it was great, I think, to see that reflected, I think, in how comfortable I think they were at the back of the court, but also at the front of the court. I felt like Sabalenka's touch maybe deserted her at a few moments, particularly on the kind of the drop shot.
But I think at times as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, yeah, but Sabalenka and Wimbledon, what do you think her ambitions are? And do you think it's going to be tougher for her to win Wimbledon versus, Roland Garros? Are there going to be more threats, do you think? Or how do you think it could play out?
Well, she did talk about clay being her weakest surface. She wasn't at Wimbledon last year, and her game is perfect for Wimbledon. I think you were at the semi-final against Jabeur, and I always get in trouble with listeners who say, when I say Sabalenka should have won something. Yes. But I think there's a lot of matches that are very close that she doesn't end up winning. And if you have a game like hers and you're as good a doubles player as she has been, she's won multiple slams at doubles, Wimbledon should be a title that she should be picking up. So
yep.
I think Wimbledon is very important to her. And if there's a whole year with her at number one without winning a slam, I think that US Open defense
very good point.
Is going to get pretty dicey as well. So I think she needs to get a result and she needs to pick up a slam this year. And I think Wimbledon will be a really big point for her. And for Coco, I think now that Coco has done this, I think it's the opposite, where she doesn't really have anything to prove. Every time people doubt her, she proves them wrong. When she won that slam, when people thought maybe she wasn't going to be the prodigy that everyone thought she would be when she burst into the scene at Wimbledon. Now she's won on clay. I feel like Wimbledon is the natural place where she really will feel like she can do something amazing because the pressure is off once again.
Yeah, I mean, Coco Gauff's record at Wimbledon actually isn't that great, given that she is the world number 2, but she's only reached the furthest she has gone at Wimbledon is the 4th round. So there's definitely big opportunities there to kind of go further than she has ever before. And I think it would be very fitting, given that is the tournament for a lot of people. Kind of she broke through on. Do you see Coco Gauff being able to do the unlikely double of the French Open and Wimbledon, clay and grass? It's a combination that doesn't happen too often, but do you think Coco Gauff has got the tools to do that? Or do you think it's going to be an even harder proposition when you're going to face the likes of Sabalenka, Rybakina, who knows, maybe even Madison Keys on the grass courts of Wimbledon?
Yeah, I think grass probably is her least preferred surface when it comes to the nature of her game. I think clay is a really good fit for her and the sort of gritty tennis that she plays. She's a great mover. Obviously, moving on grass is a bit different. I would say she obviously has the tools to win on any surface, but probably be the one where she will need to adapt her game the most from how she played the French Open and play a lot more front foot tennis, because today it was more about playing very measured, considered tennis, tactically playing very well against Sabalenka, as opposed to, hitting the cover off the ball and kind of making those points short. It was the opposite plan. So it'd be interesting to see how her game plan will change, but you'd have to put her in contention as one of the favourites,
Yeah, I mean, I've just remembered that result. Emma Navarro last season.
I was watching it. Oh,
yeah, it's 4-3. So
never got going.
And
the Kenin result the year before. So yeah, it's a bit of a
tough.
Lull for her so far, isn't it? Been in Wimbledon.
I just wonder if I hate always talking about her serve, but I feel like she needs to get more free points, with her serve, because
it's a huge weapon.
It's a huge weapon when it's working, but it feels like she relies maybe on placement, getting a player out of position early, as opposed to kind of getting a few free points here or there. But yeah, certainly very, very interesting. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, a cracking ladies final, one perhaps probably going to be remembered, would you say, Chris, more for the drama than the quality?
It was very dramatic. Very, very dramatic. I was absolutely hooked, but I was also sort of screaming at the TV. So I think we will always remember that. I think particularly if you're a Gauff or a Sabalenka fan, I think it will be one that you will be remembering the emotions you went through, even if you don't necessarily remember the quality of the tennis throughout.
Yeah, I mean, one final stat to leave you and our listeners on. There were 30 games in the match and 15 ended in breaks of serve. So that I think tells you what you will in terms of just the ebb and flow, the to and fro,
Great
the roller
returners.
coaster.
That's what I'm hearing. Great returners.
Great
Yeah.
returners, exactly. So yeah, but congratulations to Coco Gauff and commiserations, I guess, to Aryna Sabalenka. We'll have to see how they continue as we head into the grass court season. But Chris, we're going to reflect now on the women's tournament in general. And we've got a few categories up our sleeves at Tennis Weekly HQ to look back on the 2 weeks of the women's event, because it's not just been about the final. It's been memorable kind of moments and stories and matches elsewhere. So I think we've got 5 categories. We've got best match, biggest upset, most room for improvement in our most positive, vibey way possible, and biggest surprise.
Right.
And we're also gonna kind of hint towards a one to watch for the grass season as well. But let's start with best match. Best match from the last 2 weeks in the women's event, in the singles. What have you got?
I loved Svitolina Paolini. I think when match points are saved and they're properly saved, that creates a really exciting sort of spectacle. So I really enjoyed that. I loved that sort of story, and I think that had it all. And I think that turning that match around, it also ended in a really positive way. Whereas I feel like for me, if it was the bagel of Swiatek versus Sabalenka, it didn't quite reach the crescendo I was looking for. So I
was sort of penciling that in as potentially best match, but when that third set happened, I was like, actually, not this time. For me, my favourite match, I've got a couple. It's between Swiatek and Rybakina, just for the sheer drama and the comeback from Swiatek. I just thought that was so great to see. And I've also got Kenin versus Keys because
match points again.
Yeah, similar to Svitolina Paolini, when match points are saved, and it's not something we necessarily associate with Madison Keys kind of pulling a rabbit out the hat. And Kenin was playing so well as well. I'd maybe it's tough. I think I'd give Kenin Keys a slight edge because it was a bit more unexpected.
You love Kenin as well for those things.
Yeah, I do. I do.
You
So
want to
I'm
see her
going to
back
get Kenin
on top.
Keys.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. Biggest upset.
Well, I was watching Emma Raducanu at the time of her first round match, and on Susan Longlaw at the time, it was Emma Navarro versus Jessica Bushas Monero, and Love and Won. That was a real shock. I thought, Emma Navarro's not bad.
What happened there?
I never really found out, and I think a lot of people thought she might make.
I don't think Navarro wants to find out.
No, I think she's very much at the HSBC Championships now. Just it's in the past, but that was a big shock to me.
Yes, definitely. But just match wise, you still don't expect that. Navarro, very consistent competitor. I mean, mine was also involving an American and a defeated American as well. JPEG, Jessica Pegula against Lois Boisson.
Didn't see that one coming.
I mean, the fact that Boisson had not played an opponent, I believe, in the top 50, let alone in the top 10. It got very, very tense, very, very tight towards the end, but it was just an incredible story, an incredible run by Boisson, I think, capped off by this result. And I hope she does other things of note in her career. But if this doesn't get kind of topped off, looking back, I think she can be very proud of how she kind of gripped the nation, particularly in this match, because at the start of it, there weren't really kind of like that many. It was quite a few empty seats, but by the end of it, everyone was on the edge of their seat.
Yeah, they were. I think that's so true. And she definitely secured herself a deal with at least Prime or France TV or Eurosport.
Very
she
true.
deserves it.
Right. Okay. Next award we have most room for improvement. Yeah, we framed this in the most positive way possible, but I'm looking for a player that maybe you were expecting a little bit more from when it came to their campaign at Roland Garros.
Well, I think personally, I was most let down from a predictions perspective by Marta Kostyuk, who I thought was going to take out.
It's got personal.
I thought she was going to take out Swiatek, and that affected my collector set, which obviously we all know didn't quite go to plan. So I think her going up to a qualifying round one did not necessarily do well for me, but I probably would say Not necessarily room for improvement, but it's such a shame for Mukova that she isn't able to play great tennis at the moment because of injury. So she wasn't really able to play in the way that she would like. So I'd say that it's just disappointing for her as opposed to for me.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. I hope to see her at Queen's because the draw came out today and she is the fourth seed at the moment. She hasn't withdrawn, but I do wonder.
She is there. I've seen a picture. I can confirm.
Well, yeah, it's just one of these players. The Mukova to me is one of these players where until she steps out onto the tennis court for the match, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Bit like Badosa, yeah.
Yeah, but I do hope to see her, and yeah, slightly disappointing, from her perspective. I mean, from my point of view, I've actually gone for a couple of matches.
This is a very long list that you have.
Sorry,
there.
yeah, I just had
everyone
my
needs
heart,
to improve.
My heart was broken.
And interestingly, you also have Kim on this list for room for improvement.
I've got a couple of matches. I mean, Raducanu Swiatek, I thought we were going to get a match that was a lot closer than their
live. That wasn't great.
Yeah, their effort in their match in Australia, but no, it was basically the same. It was like rinse and repeat. Rybakina Ostapenko, I was watching this at home, and it just again did not live up to the expectation. But if there's maybe one player I was a little bit saddened by, just because of the the moment in their career, Caroline Garcia going out in straight sets to Bernarda Pera.
Yeah,
just
that was tough.
Not the way someone as much of a legend as Caroline Garcia wants to go out in front of her home crowd.
That's true. I think she was crying before she went out, so I think she knew that she didn't necessarily have the form. So that was a tricky watch for her and for us. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, biggest surprise. I feel like there's only one answer here, but surprise me if or try and make a wild card suggestion.
Well, I can say the biggest.
I can go for the obvious answer. But what's the wild
Okay, you
card
go first
suggestion?
then.
Okay, I'll give you some time. Right, I'm just going to say now, Lois Boisson, biggest surprise. Probably the biggest surprise story at a Grand Slam in quite a while. Just the manner of coming in as a wild card.
Yeah.
Barely
playing any tennis beforehand. Yeah.
Zero expectations. And now she's now ended the tournament as the French women's number one.
That says a lot about French women's tennis.
I know. It's a really incredible story that we just don't really expect, I think, to see at Grand Slams now. Grand Slams, really. And although, we got kind of the top two seeds and it sort of went to the form book in terms of the seeds in that latter end, there was still kind of room for some surprises. So it was really great, I think, to see a little home hope in Boisson.
Yeah, it was great to see that.
Make waves and get to the semi-finals.
Well, then I can maybe tag team on that because I found out that you don't say her name Boisson. It's Boisson is how she says it.
Oh,
so
okay.
that was a big surprise to me because I thought we were very much in the beverage side of things.
Okay.
So
Boisson.
Boisson, apparently that's the case. And I heard that from her. So that's got to be right. And then the other surprise I had would be that, Swiatek, I think this whole tournament, I think I've been very surprised by her mentality. I think in press when I've been in the room or asking her questions, I think she very much is someone who is much more rounded than I thought she was in so many ways and a lot more resilient. And I think that a lot more is going to come from her in this period. And probably on a personal perspective, I think she will grow a lot from this. So I think we all counted her out and she got very close to almost making that final and almost potentially defending. So that was surprising based on what we thought before the tournament.
Okay, I'm going to quickly add Aryna Sabalenka then, because just on the level of tennis she showed up to Roland Garros, I think she has played the best tennis on clay.
Yeah,
so
she's the world number one. She's the best player in the world.
She's the world number one. So from that point of view, I think you've also got to maybe add Sabalenka into one of the biggest surprises, not coming away with a maiden Roland Garros title.
Flipped that one. Yeah, I can see that.
I flipped that. Yeah, flipped it a little bit. But right. Okay. Final award. Not to do with Roland Garros, but to do with the upcoming grass season and Wimbledon. Who are your players on the women's side on the WTA tour to watch out for?
I think Rybakina is really shaping up pretty nicely after the result in Strasbourg, and then playing pretty well at the French as well. So I think very dangerous on the grass court. So she's probably my pick to watch out for on the grass.
Interesting. Okay. I
What about
was.
Boris? Are you going to say Boyson again?
Oh, I'm going to say Yelena Ostapenko.
Oh, is she even playing esports? I think she's pulled out of everything now. I think she's just heading straight to Wimbledon.
Maybe Madison Keys as well, actually. I think Madison Keys could be quite interesting.
Okay, we'll have
to
to ask
see
Kim
at
who she thinks
Wimbledon.
as well, won't
Yeah.
we? Well, she picked the winner. We should give Kim some credit if she's listening to this as well. Kim picked Sabalenka and Gauff to make the final with a Gauff victory.
Wow.
And she could be on for the double because she also picked Sinner Alcaraz. So let's see. And that could be the biggest surprise is that we actually got a prediction right.
This feels like a nail in the coffin
It
of
does.
the slam
So that
spoon of
means-
shame going to me because
Yes, I think it's
I
already
did not.
with you.
My predictions did not live up to the expectation.
But Jack
but we're
Draper's
gonna,
making the final.
well, but we're gonna get into that when we come back tomorrow for our men's finals episode because Kim is going to join us. It's going to be the Tennis Weekly trio at Tennis Weekly HQ to look back on the excitement of Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. Chris, I know you weren't here for our semi-finals episode when we did the men's section. Final words, Sinner Alcaraz. What's your 2 cents on it?
You can never know how Alcaraz is going to perform based on the form book that he's had so far. I was not impressed with the semi-final. I still think he's got a chance. And I'm going to say I think Alcaraz is going to do it. And it might be similar to last year's score. I'd say Alcaraz in 5.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's big. Right, we're going to leave it there. It'll open up a whole
That
can of worms
bombshell.
if
We have to stop.
if we explore that. Right, that wraps up our latest Roland Garros round by round catch up here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. As always, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action from Roland Garros. One more day, Sunday, men's final. We are very much looking forward to it. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can listen back to some of our episodes. We did have our journals as well. And we spoke to Coco many times in those. So if you'd like to hear more from our Roland Garros champion, then do make sure you listen back to some of those. But if you'd like to stay connected on social media, we're of course on all of the social media channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. Or you can drop us an email just in time for our final episode if you have another question. We always take questions, don't we, Joel? So tennisweeklypod@gmail.com if you'd like to drop us an email.
Yes, indeed. And we'll be back on Sunday for our French Open 2025 men's finals catch up. Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz. I cannot wait. But until then, we're going to have that catch up brought to you by Property Hub Invest. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.